We RAD Dads, bringing a soft edge to a hard topic. Join us every week as we talk to real people with real stories, from the everyday single parent to family professionals, and find entertainment along the way. Join me, Walter J. Eggers, as I discover and share wisdom. Positive changes start here.
Featured episode. Hello and welcome back again, Rad Dads. Walter here with you, and I'm feeling amazing. If you don't know, We Rad Dads is your resource for single, separated, divorced, and otherwise non-traditional dads. I am happy to have you. Thank you for joining us. To the new listeners, and for everyone who supported us along the way, I cannot thank you enough for making We Rad Dads what it is. You know, I appreciate you listening, and I aim to bring you value and insight, a little bit of wisdom, and entertainment as well. If you find value, insight, wisdom, and or entertainment, I would appreciate you sharing this episode with your friends and other people who need to hear it. This is a featured episode. I'm on a hiatus right now. The season 1 of We Rad Dads has just come to a close, but I'm not going to leave you high and dry. This featured episode is now being rebroadcast from our archives. It's something that I found value in, and I hope you do too. Now, if you don't know, in episode 52, I highlighted the need to take a hiatus, reset, and restructure for We Rad Dads Season 2, which will launch in February 2017. In the meantime, I wanted to bring you something amazing. Speaking of value, if you don't know, quick links are available on the iTunes player. If you tap on the album art, the colorful We Rad Dads banner, on the iTunes player, it will uncover a short show notes section. And in those show notes, you'll have several links of things like our resources page, which has been redeveloped and features several podcasts and other resources that you may find helpful, like Amazon affiliates, which I would appreciate you using. Very simple to do, as a matter of fact. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, go through the quick links there or on our show notes page and any page at www.weraddads.com. And what that does is allow you to make your purchase through Amazon and for We Rad Dads to collect a very small percentage of your purchase, which would normally go to Amazon. This is an excellent way to support our show and We Rad Dads without costing you a penny extra. Also featured in our resources page is our Audible trial. That's right. Go to audibletrial.com/WeRadDad or click on the quick links to get signed up for a free 30-day trial of audible.com. And not only that, you get a free book to boot. A new addition to the quick links is the episode 0. That's the origins of We Rad Dads. If you're new, this is for you. Okay, I didn't mean to rhyme that, but it works. Listen, if you want to know what We Rad Dads is all about and how I started and what we're headed towards, episode 0 is for you. It's a must listen. Go on over to the quick links, click on the link, and get started on that episode too. And now, to draw everything together, I've created a resource and a place for us to be and have conversations that we can't have elsewhere. It's a private Facebook group for We Rad Dads only. Join us. We're having amazing conversations over there, and we're helping guys left and right. The We Rad Dads that have joined are an amazing group of gentlemen, and I'm proud to be there right with you. So come on over and join us on the We Rad Dads Facebook group. During this hiatus, I'm looking forward to creating more resources, like the 7 Essentials download you will find if you go to the We Rad Dads home base at www.weraddads.com. This is a list of 7 essential things you need to do when becoming a single parent. I hope your new year is going great, and I hope to set the stage for a fantastic 2017. It's time to move yourself forward, and I'm right there with you. Now, without further ado, let's get to this week's featured episode. As a preview for the very first episode of 2017, I got a conglomerate of the Microsode episodes that I actually love dearly. Now, this is just a handful of collection, but the more I listened to them, the more profound I thought it was, and I really wanted to share this, package it all up in one episode, and bring it to you. This is me a year ago, and it's really amazing to hear one after the next. Now, whether or not you remember, Microsodes is something that I ended up having to give up, and I'll actually talk about this in the rebroadcast of some of these Microsodes. Now, something that I'm trying to do in my hiatus as well is try and bring back some more Microsodes, and it may not be on the regular yet. But my goal, and it's starting, We Rad Dads, is to bring you a featured episode, a full-length interview episode, to say, at the beginning of the week, and then on Thursday or Friday bring you just a little bit of something extra, a little boost, and that's what the Microsodes were. Now, unfortunately, in my ability and time to scale that I had extra, I just didn't have the time, and I really wanted to keep the value of the interview episodes. But this is kind of a brief overview of all the Microsode, not all, most of the Microsode episodes. There's a few other good ones out there. So I recommend you go back and you check some of the Microsode episodes out. Now, this is a conglomeration of, in order, by the way, episode 4, episode 6, episode 14, episode 16, episode 18, episode 22, and episode 27. Now, it may sound like a lot, but a lot of these are 5 minutes, some of them are 10, some of them are a little bit more. Despite that, this is a longer show overall, but it's very bite-sized. So if you listen for a little bit and then go somewhere and come back, you'll always be engaged. And frankly, I'm very proud of how these all turned out. At the time, they were such small little nuggets and little stories, but put them together and I feel very, very proud. So if you would, please share these out because I think that they have a ton of value. So if you're going to share anything, go ahead and throw it on social, throw it on, put it in a text, just give it to other people, and hopefully they can get a little bit of what I'm talking about here. I'm pretty vulnerable with who I am and where I am, and I haven't come this far without going through these little obstacles along the way and learning these little things, and I love sharing them. So if you like this, I'd love to have some feedback. Go over and join us on the RAD DADS Facebook group. That's where conversations are being had and having, I guess. Sure, why not? And be part of that conversation. There's so much more going on over there. There's so much personal connection. I really want to have you a part. So go on over to the We Rad Dads Facebook page, request, and I'll add you. That's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. I'll see you there. Enjoy the Microsodes and know that there are more on the horizon. Hello and welcome. This is Walter. Welcome to a Microsode, a micro episode. Yep. Hey, I wanted to share with you an experience that I had today. What most of you may not know is today is my birthday. Most of you may not know that because I don't advertise it. But I wanted to share with you how my birthday pretty much unfolded. And trust me, there's a message here. And my mom texts me and she says, "Hey, happy birthday." And she made a reference to a comedian of old, I guess. I don't want to date anyone here. Anyway, she said, you are now the same age as Jack Benny. I assume that, like me, you had to Google that. And if you did, you would find out that Jack Benny was a comedian and actor and such. I didn't understand the reference, and she went on to explain that Jack Benny always said that he was 39, no matter what age he actually was. Yeah, cat's out of the bag. I'm 39. Damn. Anyway, as I go on throughout my day and I'm working along here, I get a text from my son's mom, and she asks, "Hey, are you going to be home later?" And I'm thinking, oh no, this can't be good. And so I reply, "Yeah, why?" She says, "Hey, I'd like to come by." And I'm thinking, oh no, that's not good. Am I going to get chewed out? Did I do something wrong? What negative thing is happening, unfolding before me? And I ask her, I go, "Okay, well, hey, that sounds pretty ominous." And she says, and this is the part that got me. She just says, "Trust me." Now, for those of you who don't know, it has been just over a year now since life has happened. And I got to be honest with you, I'm really happy that she is in fact happy. My one focus in all this is to make sure that our son is well taken care of and loved and has the encouragement to continue as if his parents were together and happy, just like I'd always dreamed I would be raising children. So if I have to check my ego and do that, I will. I get this text and it says, "Trust me." That's a very difficult thing to be able to pull off. The point I'm trying to make here is the situation is dictated by my perception, by my paradigms, maybe a little bit by our past, but our recent past has been really good, actually. We've been doing pretty well working together. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that we'll never disagree again and things will be hunky-dory. In fact, I'll guarantee that we're going to disagree. I will move forward with our son's best interest in mind, and I know you will too. So when I saw that text that says, "Trust me," I just simply replied, "Okay." It was completely out of my hands anyway, so I won't stress about things that I can't change. Mind over matter. The moral of the story is just that. It's having an attitude of gratitude. And yeah, you know what? It sounds cliche. But the bottom line is, the short amount of time that our lives have unfolded separately and where we are now to be able to share that is pretty amazing. So at 3 o'clock, when she says she's going to be here, I open the door. Surprise! It's my son. My son is holding a birthday present, a piece of lemon cake, and a card. I'm completely shocked. I invite them in straight away. Totally unexpected. This is probably the best birthday present I could have gotten. Not just the physical gift, but being able to see my son on a day that I didn't expect to see him. Man, being a single parent really lets you appreciate the little things in life. The biggest present that I think I could have gotten wasn't a physical thing. My son's mom can bring over a birthday gift that basically she made, put my son's name on, and brought it over. And I can invite her in and we can enjoy ourselves with our son. That's a true victory for me right now. You know what? The attitude of gratitude allows me to focus on those little things. I don't have anything that I thought I would at this point in life. I'm happy with what I do have. I've got a family. No, it's not traditional. No, it's not normal. And there's a lot of people that really just don't get it. But that's my entire purpose here with We Rad Dads. Circling back, as I looked over the Google page for Jack Benny, I realized that there were a few quotes on here. Being a quote meister, that's pretty much what I'm going to call myself, I had to read them. The third one really caught my eye. Age, it starts, is strictly a case of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take it one step further. In my initial reaction to that text, I had a choice whether or not to see it as positive or negative. It was strictly a case of mind over matter. If I knew I couldn't change it and didn't mind what was coming my way, was confident enough to handle it, it didn't matter what it was. Lucky me, it was awesome. All right, everyone, that's enough serious talk for now. I hope you get a glimpse into what we're all about here, and I hope you join us in the future.
If you enjoyed today's Microsode, share it with a friend via text, Facebook, or Twitter, because you're not the only one who can benefit from this information. Check us out on iTunes and Stitcher. Give us a 5-star rating and review. I'd really appreciate it. And if we haven't earned a 5-star rating and review, contact me, Walter, at weraddads.com. Be part of the conversation, both actively or passively. Join our Facebook group and follow us on Twitter. Be the change that you're looking for, and you'll find it. We'd love to have you as part of our rad tribe. Keep fighting the good fight. Stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads. Hey Rad Dads, do you like free stuff? We Rad Dads podcast is hosting a contest. Enter once for up to 12 chances to win cool prizes, including awesome swag like Rad Dad t-shirts and $50 Amazon gift cards. That's right, $50. Who couldn't use that? I could. Go over to our Facebook group page to find out more at www.facebook.com/groups/WeRadDads, or just type us into the search bar at We Rad Dads. Head on over there now to get signed up. And as always, stay rad. Hello everyone, this is Walter Eggers, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about what happened to me this morning. Because, well, I'm human just like everyone else. I'm not sure if anybody remembers, but perhaps, again, here I am dating myself. I remember as a child growing up hearing this guy talk about the hair club for men and blah, blah, blah. Apparently that guy's name is Cy Sperling. Cy Sperling was famous for having a quote at the end of his commercials. It was, "I'm not just the president of the hair club for men, but I'm also a client." We'll get back to that in a minute. So today, what happened to me as I was dropping my son off at preschool, and yes, I'm extremely fortunate that I have the means available and a place where I trust bringing my son for daycare, instruction, learning, songs, friendship, etc. I walked in the door, and as always, my son hesitates at the doorway. There was kind of a hustle and bustle, which is normal in daycare. After signing my son in, I turned to hug him goodbye. As I turned, I looked down, and staring up at me with wet puppy dog eyes was a young girl. She reached up to me as if to say, "Hold me." Now, I've always had a soft spot for kids, and maybe that's why I take parenting so seriously, but I couldn't help but kneel down and sit her on my knee. She cuddled into me. It immediately dawned on me this wasn't the first time that had happened. This occurred once more at a different daycare when I went to drop off my son. My son was fine, outside playing, running around, doing all sorts of things. But this boy, it was obvious. He was reaching out to me, just like this girl. The look in both of their eyes was one of desperation and need. They just needed someone. Well, I'm not sure what the social standard is for this, but I'm certainly not one to shy away from an obligation, especially one with such social impact at a young development age. I'll tell you the story about the little girl this morning, and maybe we'll talk about that little boy at some point in the future. So I brought this girl onto my knee, and she snuggled into my chest, tears streaming down her face. She didn't want to be there. I sat down, and the daycare providers huddled around. watching closely. What's he gonna do? I find this reaction pretty common as a dad. It's almost as if I don't know or I'm completely inept. I guess I've grown somewhat used to it, but it still kind of irks me. Now, to clarify, I don't think these particular daycare providers think that about me personally. In general, I feel most people do. That could be an incorrect perception on my part. We just sat there. I tried to engage with her, ask her if she wanted a sticker, ask her what her name was, and she just sat there in silence, snuggled into my chest with those jerky inward breaths. Children are pretty perceptive, and the others gathered around quickly. They all stood there, wide-eyed, gape-jawed, and watched. I called my son over and introduced him. I'm going to call this young girl Chelsea. I introduced my son to Chelsea, and soon had the privilege of being introduced to several of the young children. Why did I do this? Maybe I saw a need. If I took 10 minutes out of my day to help somebody else, it really helps me. We began sharing, and slowly she kind of came out of it. She whispered things into my ear like her name and how old she was. This is only part of the magic of a child. They are exactly who they are at their core at every given moment. As an adult, I've felt the same way where I need to reach out occasionally and just wish someone was there to provide support. But as a single dad, I don't find that very often. No, I don't need much, but sometimes it'd be nice to really talk to somebody about some issues that are going on. Maybe it's because I've sequestered myself in an attempt to hide my problems from the world. I don't know, but I vow to find out. The moral of the story is, by the time I left about 10 minutes later, things were better. They weren't great, but they were better. She was no longer in tears, and she was still sad that her mom wasn't there, but I feel like I'd helped, even slightly. The fact of the matter is, she helped me. I'm currently wrestling with a situation of my own, and it helped me gain some perspective. I think we're all struggling in some way. The fact is, when I took time out to help someone else, it really just helped me. Maybe it puts my issues into perspective. Maybe just the feeling of helping somebody is enough to keep me going. I don't know. Point is, I think it's important to rely on someone occasionally, to be open and honest with somebody you trust. I feel that on top of that, I'm trying to be very genuine with everyone around me. There's no point in lying or masking myself anymore, especially putting myself out here on a platform like this. That's really why I started We Rad Dads. I just want to be that platform where people feel comfortable sharing, bringing their issues to, and having a community of people who totally understand and are genuine themselves. Yeah, I may be the man behind the mic, but as Cy used to say, I'm also a client. You can check out Cy Sperling's first commercial on our website. There's a direct link, or search for it yourself on YouTube. It's pretty interesting. I hope this has brought some enlightenment to you today, put a smile on your face, or given you the proper frame of reference to roll into the weekend with. Nobody's perfect, myself included. Thank you for stopping by, and check us out on our website at www.weraddads.com. There you can find links to our Facebook group and Twitter account. Want to know more? I'd love to hear from you. Email me, walter@weraddads.com. Please take time right now to stop by iTunes or Stitcher and give us a 5-star rating and review. That's it for now, but as always, stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads. Hey Rad Dads, Walter here. A real quick request. If you've enjoyed any of our programming, I would hope that you would share this with a friend. Text it to them, email it to them, just tell them about it. The only way I'm able to help people and we're able to start a conversation about the things you want to hear is if people know. Those days of isolation are over. And let's move forward together. So let a friend know that the We Rad Dads podcast exists. And people are talking about this stuff. I'd really appreciate your personal introduction. Thanks. Hello and welcome back, Rad Dads. I wanted to take a quick moment and record a microsode just kind of off the cuff here. It's planned to be a short episode. So, if it isn't, well, we kind of went off the rails a little bit. And it's okay sometimes, I guess. Anyway, the first and foremost thing I would like to say is thanks for listening. I really appreciate that you would allot me and this podcast time in your schedule amongst everything else that's going on in your life. So first and foremost, thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. And the podcast actually has grown quite a bit in its first, just over a month now. So without you, none of that would have happened. None of this programming would have been possible. And it's when I see that kind of engagement, when I see that it's being absorbed, downloaded and listened to, and I'm getting feedback, it's an amazing feeling. What I will ask is that you continue to give me feedback via the Facebook group or, to my email. If you just want to have a one-on-one conversation, that's great. Email me. That's cool. Please become part of our group. We're growing every day and we've got a lot of really awesome guys in there.
So today's episode is really interesting in that it's not something I ever thought I would really kind of talk about on this podcast, but I guess it's completely apropos. So while I'm thanking you, I also need to thank my son's mom. And that may sound really weird to some of you, but hear me out. Well, I think I'll just dive into it. And keep in mind, I'm going to have a level of anonymity, right? So I'm not going to say her name or anybody else's name. So here we go. Thank you. Now, I know you're not a listener or you're active in the We RAD Dads community or probably listening to this right now, but I wanted to take this moment and thank you for being active in our family. Thank you for letting go of our negative past and putting our son first. Thank you for our conversation. Thank you for your patience in both teaching and listening. You know, I know you're not going to necessarily implement the things that we talk about for our son, but I appreciate that you actually listened to my feedback. And something happened here the other day that I didn't think you would ever do. So it's kind of a signal to me that we're moving forward in the correct direction, at least the direction I would like to move. And instead of very succinct conversations, which are kind of tense, you know, sometimes I think we both had a problem listening to each other with direction as far as what one or the other should do with regard to our son or our lives or that sort of thing. But now that the relationship pressure is off, I appreciate that you reached out to me for advice with our son. You know, it means a lot to me, actually. So I really wanted to kind of recognize you for that. Although I kind of initially wanted to gloat about it, I realized that, you know, that's not really the direction I want to go. That's not the person I am anymore. So I just wanted to recognize you for that. And more than just reaching out, I know we've had a problem listening to each other. I really appreciate that you listened. Now, we're still working on that gray area, and where that line actually lies, oftentimes it moves. And depending on our mood or what's going on, you know, I agree to give you as much patience with regard to that as possible. If you see something that I'm failing with, I want to know. I may not accept it immediately, but if you feel I need feedback, then I would appreciate if you would tell me. You know, due to our level of communication, we've come a long way in a short amount of time. You know, we've accepted each other's realities, and we've been able to reach this place of co-parenting that I really honestly figured would take years to get to. So, you know, you're at least half of that. I'm really grateful that you would value my opinion with our son. I don't think that a lot of women do, and I think that's a source of friction in a lot of relationships. I really enjoy being part of our family. Yeah, it's weird and quirky, and no one seems to get it. You know, when we talk about how we share our son, people seem to shy away from it. But I think the more that we really show them that it's okay, I hope that we can somehow be an example to at least our particular sphere of influence, the people that we end up working with or know somehow, and show them that it can be done and it can be done well. I really like the direction we're headed. You know, life is a practice. Parenting is a practice. You know, much like a physician, you know, you go to a doctor and a doctor has a practice. It's a continual learning process. It's a course correction every step along the way. We pick a direction, and, you know, sometimes we may have to sidestep obstacles or, you know, do something that we didn't think we had to in order to achieve the overall goal. I'm glad that we can do that without begrudgingly hold the other somehow accountable for something that they may or most likely may not have had influence over. Like a physician, we're constantly being influenced by a barrage of information and circumstances, attitudes, actions. You know, we all get hangry. You know, I can't imagine a doctor would be any different, right? So I appreciate that we have been able to work within that and find this place within a very short window of time. I'm thankful for that because of primarily our son is able to enjoy us at his young age. The last thing I wanted for him was to be emotionally scarred because of our circumstance. And furthermore, I'm very happy that I'm able to participate in your daughter's activities as well. No, she's not my biological child, but I would like to think that I had a really big hand in helping raise her to the person she is becoming. I hope that we can be an example to her as well. I'm going to extend this even further. And I know to this point, your marriage is still pretty young. I may have my own issues with how it all got to this point, but the reality is we're here now. And I want to say to my son's stepdad, thank you. I'll be honest with you. I was threatened by your paycheck. I was threatened by your position. It was a very vulnerable point in my life when you entered into our family. I am trying, but it's still difficult for me. I think we all understand that time is the great equalizer. And I think we all already know that in time, this situation will be absolutely normal. I'm very happy that in our short window, we've all come to this place. So to my son's stepdad, I wish to offer any help I possibly can. You have a new one on the way, and this is your first child. I'm sure that can be completely overwhelming, just as it is to step into an established family. I want to see your journey be as successful as possible. And so I want to reach out and offer any assistance I can possibly give. I appreciate that you're able to provide happiness and security for my son and his family in your home. I don't know why I decided to talk about this week. I just had this overwhelming sense that I'm extremely lucky to find myself in the position I do. And you know me, I like to stay up and positive. And would like to think that this is a positive episode. Going back to my manifesto, going back to the About Me, episode 0, I talk a lot about integrity, and it's something that I hold dear, actually. I think without character and integrity, there's not a lot of substance to us. I don't think I'd have come to this point without a healthy dose of gratitude and humility. And those two things are really hard for someone in my position to grapple with. I think ego really clouts one's mind when they're wrestling and trying to come to grips with their situation in life. Now, I may not have anything that I wish I would have at this point, but I know what I do have, and I'm very thankful for it. So to you, the other half of my family, I wish to say thank you. And I'm very grateful that we can all put first what matters most. Rad Dads out there, I hope you're listening. I hope you can take stock in the little things in your life. And I encourage you to take a few moments as you close your eyes in bed, and instead of worrying about what tomorrow brings, be thankful for the experiences and the life you have today. I think this simple mindset shift is going to take you further than you may realize at this point. There was a time not long ago that I thought this exercise would never bring me what I want. And in truth, it didn't. But it allowed me to change my mindset to the point where I actually saw opportunity. This is what I want for you. Keep putting your best foot forward. Keep leading by example. Keep doing the right thing simply for the right reason. No matter what has happened in the past, you still have choice over your future. I hope this makes sense to you. Keep fighting the good fight. Stay up, stay connected, and stay Rad Dads. Hello and welcome back, Rad Dads. Walter Eggers here with you yet again with another short episode, a microsode, if you will, about something that had happened to me recently, actually. Something that I'm still kind of processing in a way, I guess. But it's something that I can assure you is something that we can all relate to here. Now, before we get into the episode here, I wanted to encourage you to share We Rad Dads with a friend. I would appreciate your personal introduction to your inner circle. Somebody who may be struggling with things on their own. Maybe you recognize that someone needs help. Reach out to them. Make yourself available, and if what I have to offer with We Rad Dad can help them, definitely share that with them. I would really appreciate that. Text forward, email, point them towards our website, or even our Facebook. And I want to point out that this episode is sponsored by Audible.com. That's right, Audible.com. If you like podcasts and you like information, audiobooks is the best way to get the most out of your time. Commuting, if you're tired of podcasts and you want to learn something, this is the way to do it. So grab a book, and right now you can go to audibletrial.com/WeRadDads and get your free 30-day trial membership. Oh, wait, there's more. You can also get one free book with your trial membership. So go test it out. Take it for a test drive. There's no better price than free. And that's a free book in your spare time. I don't see how you can go wrong there. Again, that's audibletrial.com/WeRadDads. And if that's too much, just go to our show notes page and click on any of the Audible links. All right, let's dive into it. I wanted to take this time and tell you about something that had happened to me recently. In fact, it was this past weekend, and I was in Costco taking something back. I was returning something, and my son was playing around, and he was being super awesome, just super fun and friendly, and he had gone to lay down in the aisle, just kind of screwing around like kids do. And I mean, he's 3, so I let him be, and just kind of hands-off parenting, obviously, And I turned around to a sound of his scream. And any parent can identify, they know when it's the I hurt myself scream. And I turn around to find that this man pushing a shopping cart has just passed my son, and he is sitting up holding his hand. And so this guy just ran over my son's fingers. I think we've all been there. I think we've all been to that point where something like that happens, and I just wanted to unleash, his wife or girlfriend or whatever had been bent down to check on my son, and I had a decision to make. I had several decisions to make, and I know exactly how I wanted to respond, and I did, initially react instead of respond. And the first thing I did is I kept my cool, to the point where I walked straight up to the guy. I squared up to him, and speaking to my son, I looked in this guy's eyes, and I looked at him with that I'm going to destroy you look in my eyes. And I said to my son, I said, did this guy just run over your fingers? And of course, my son was crying on the floor, and his wife or other was cuddling my son at this point. She didn't know what to do. It was a very uncomfortable situation for them. I can only imagine. But what I did imagine is me absolutely destroying this guy. How dare he? How could he not have seen? How could this happen and yet not say a word? Not even I'm sorry, or at least I didn't hear it. I was so angry, and there was so much pent-up aggression that I could have very easily pummeled this clown, and I was on the edge. I was on the edge of doing just that. And as soon as I had squared up to this guy and asked my son this, I realized what is most important here. My son is sitting on the floor crying, and I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. I know what I want to do. I made him look away. That's really what it came down to, is dominance at that point. And I think we both knew what would have happened should I have taken a step in that direction. But I didn't. I stepped away immediately and went over and scooped up my son. And I brought his head to my chest, and he was crying, and I looked at his fingers, and, it was pretty superficial. I got to be honest with you. There was a little bit of skin off the top of his fingers, right? But there was absolutely no blood or whatever. It's like just kind of scuffing your finger, basically. And by the time I turned back, I saw this, and it would be one thing if it were red or if, there were nothing there. But I saw this, and it was just like, it set me off, it lit my fire even more. So I turned around and I yelled at the guy, and of course they were at the door. They were making a beeline for the car because, well, I mean, look, I'm not like, I'm not this towering brute, but I'm 6'2" and 200 pounds and every bit muscle. I have no doubt that when you cross my situation, my background with my physical capabilities, it doesn't matter if you're 12 feet tall. I will break you. I will destroy you. And that's exactly what I wanted to do this guy. So I turned around after seeing this and I yelled something at him. People were stopping and starting to stare, and my son was in tears and he's on my chest. And, I had these decisions to make, and I just chose at that point to focus on him. He wasn't bleeding. He was hurt, but I think he was possibly more emotionally hurt than physically at this point. And yeah, getting your fingers run over, man, that sucks. I'd be mad too. I'd be crying too if I were in his spot. Now, the Costco employees did a really good job of coming back and asking if I needed a Band-Aid. And, that really helped actually, because it made me say out loud, no, it's okay. He's not bleeding. He's just got a little skin off his fingers. It made me reaffirm what it was that had happened and kind of the severity of the event. People were just gape-jawed staring at this point, and I was starting to get even more worked up, if that were possible. And the more I kind of dwelled on it, the worse it got. And I told the guy, listen, I go, look, I appreciate this. I'm sorry. I have to go walk this off because we're both really upset right now. And I just kind of broke off and I just started walking through Costco, and he's crying on my shoulder, and, I'm trying to talk him down. It's like, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry your fingers hurt, and daddy's really angry, and that sort of thing. And in those following moments, I experienced a rage unlike anything I had ever known before in my life. To know that this person hurt the one person in my world that I care about to a degree I can't even measure. There's no measure. And in that moment, I have never actually been blinded by rage before in my life, but I did. I went to a place, I literally zoned to that place. And immediately after I went there, that wave, that heat wave, that tense, that energy that kind of just coursed through me at that moment in this indignity on top of everything else that I've been dealing with as a dad, all of that just surged through me like some superhuman force. It scared me. It scared the crap out of me because I was not in control. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little worked up right now, but this is something that I'm still kind of processing a little bit. And in that moment, I was so scared of what my actions would have been if I had chosen the other path. And I'm walking through Costco, and I basically started breathing. I started talking myself down as soon as I started talking my son down. And just about a minute later, my son, basically his sobbing stopped, and he told me, he says, I'm okay, Daddy. He knew exactly what to say to me because Daddy wasn't okay. Daddy needed to calm down. And I don't know, maybe he sensed that, maybe he didn't. I can't tell you where that came from. I mean, he's 3, so I'm a very Papa Bearish when it comes to, his protection. I mean, that's my job. That's all of our jobs as a dad, is to be the Papa Bear, is to be the protector and the provider. And there's so many things that I can't protect him from as a single dad. There's only a certain portion of his life that I can directly impact. And that feeling of loss, the losses in the past, the anguish in what I talked about last week, the financial situation that we're in, the constant pummeling that I'm getting, and I'm just weathering this storm, protecting him as best I can. Those things all coupled into this situation, and it was literally that straw breaking the camel's back moment. It was that breaking point, and I physically experienced that break when I went into this rage. I ended up calming myself down to the point where I recognized that nothing positive was ever going to come out of that. I'm still really upset, but we left Costco. We didn't do anything else there, and of course I had things to do, but it's just I couldn't be there anymore, and it stuck with me. It's still stuck with me, obviously, to right now. But in those moments, I couldn't let it go. It was going over and over and over in my head, and I'm going to myself. And I have this question for you. What would you have done? And the reality is, I didn't know whether or not this guy ran over my son's fingers. I wasn't watching. I can guarantee you he didn't deliberately run over my son's fingers. But in those moments, I didn't have that cognition to recognize that. For all I know, my son was laying there and seeing the wheels on the cart go by, curious as 3-year-olds are, put his fingers under the wheels. I didn't know that. I don't know what happened. I do know the reactions to this. And this goes back to my quote, that Charles Schwindel. This is why I ask this question in every one of my interviews. What does that quote from Charles Schwindel mean to you? Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. React is obviously the wrong word, because what I'm looking for is respond, right? And so I'd like to think that I responded appropriately to who I am and to the situation. Now, I don't know what occurred in those, very brief moments that this thing unfolded, but I had several choices to make. In reflection, I will say that my response to the situation was appropriate for me. And that's the key qualifying word or phrase, for me. What's appropriate for you? What's appropriate for your family? What's appropriate for your son? What would be appropriate in your scenario if you were to live that out? And the thing is, these things get sprung on us. And we get into our primal brain sometimes. And this is why rewiring your thought process is so important. I think without my cognition, without me trying to continually develop myself as the best person, the best dad possible, I don't think I would have reacted the same way. I don't think I would have responded the same way. And I started thinking about consequence. How could I have best served my son in that time? How could I have best served myself in that time? And I think to that degree, I was extremely successful. What is the consequence of taking that other road? And I guarantee you somebody would have walked away not walked away. There was no question I would have unleashed everything, all the anguish, all the agony, all the fear, everything. And I would have woke up after that moment of rage, looked at the situation, looked at what I've done, looked at the example I had just set for my son. And at that point, one of us was going to the hospital and the other was going to the holding cell, going to get tucked into the back of a cruiser. It led me to really question manhood. It led me to really question, what would the man have done there? What would a manly man have done there? And the reality is, I was afraid that I would not be perceived as a man because of my actions to, instead of repaying the injustice to this perceived transgressor, I instead chose to care for my son. Can you imagine that? Me getting in a physical altercation with somebody in Costco return as my son is writhing in pain and calling out for my attention. We face all kinds of challenges all the time when it comes to being the best parent. And, this is just one example of many during the day. And we have varying degrees of patience and anguish in our lives. I would call to you to really investigate how you respond to things. Although I question my manhood at that moment, which was very painful and probably led to that moment of absolute blinding rage, I feel that, to my definition, without a doubt, I responded the best any man could have. And I question that other guy's manhood. Whether or not he said it, whether or not I heard it, I don't know, but I did not hear I'm sorry. I did not hear an apologetic tone. And he bailed out of there. I guarantee you he's questioning his manhood. And I'll tell you what, he should. Because no man would have done that knowingly or not and cowered and run away like that. The question here this week is, how do you define what a man is? Here I am again, worried about what society might think of me. The reality is, a man is someone who can handle any situation appropriately, despite those emotions, despite those tendencies, those primal urges to fight, to lend yourself to the extreme aggression that a caged animal would feel. And that is a response of someone who has no control over who they are and is, by my definition, not a man. Those are immature responses. Now, had the tables been turned, I know I would have acted differently. I can't control that. I can't control myself. I can set the example to my son and to those onlookers. Not that I care what they think now. But I can't believe it got to me that point where I did worry about whether or not they thought I was a man. Don't question yourselves, Rad Dads. Know yourself. Know that you're a man. Know that you're taking this challenge full-on frontal assault. You're doing the best you can. And we're going to take our hard knocks along the way. No question. And I'll say this once more, but accept your own reactions, whatever they are. Accept your own responses. Know that you did the best you could, given the situation, given the information at the time. And we could sit here and armchair quarterback ourselves, but the reality is, the more I thought about it in hindsight, the more worked up I got about it. And it wasn't going to do anyone any good. In 30 minutes, my son was back to his jovial self. Stop hanging on to that baggage. Move forward. Move onward. Learn those lessons and keep being rad. I know you can do it, dads. No one said it was going to be easy. I really thank you for your time here today. And I got a little deep, and of course I went a little long, but I think that this was something that not only I wanted to get off my chest, but I really believe that you out there can relate to this. Having those burdens of the world just pile up on you, and you need to be able to process them one way or the other. Let them go. Let them go. That's my words of advice. If this speaks to you, I really want to hear. Email me at walter@weraddads.com. Let me know if this actually resonates with you, or if this is just a bunch of malarkey and you don't want to hear it. I really want to foster a relationship with you out there. And I'm not just saying that, right? And along those lines, we're all in this together. We are a tribe, whether or not you know it. We've been disbanded. Each of us are on our own island of solitude. And I created the We Rad Dads Facebook group to join us all together to create a band of people, a tribe that are bonded through similar circumstance and hardship. No one man is an island, and it takes us all. So don't be afraid to lean on me or other men. And you'd be surprised how many are out there who want to help you. Other people who have been through your situation and want to reach back and help. I make contact with them almost on a daily basis, believe it or not. Thank you for supporting the program. And if you really want to support us further, I'm an affiliate for both Amazon and audibletrial.com. It's very simple. Just go onto our show notes and click any of those links. It's not going to cost you any more, but if you want to support what I'm doing right here, I would really appreciate it. And the Audible link is www.audibletrial, that's audibletrial.com/weraddads, all one word. All right, that's enough for this episode. I really hope you got some value out of it. And I want to tell myself this, as much as I say this to you, I want to hear it myself. Stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads. I'll talk to you soon. Hello, welcome back, Rad Dads. Thank you so much for joining me yet again today. This is Walter Eggers here, and I am going to absolutely keep it real for you here today. We go back and forth on these Microsodes, these Thursday episodes, and I really would love to hear some feedback on that. In the past, I've brought some examples and maybe some contextual stuff, like Heraclitus is actually one of my favorite episodes because I got to be a little philosophical and bring some facts and maybe some historical stuff to the table. We get to all learn through that process. Haley, where I brought you a learning example of something that I experienced firsthand. I want to know what you think about this. So let me know what you think. Drop me an email at walter@weraddads.com. This episode is sponsored by Audible. That's right, Audible. It's an audiobook service, and they've got thousands of titles, all right? So go by the website and click on any of the audio banners to get your free 30-day trial and a free book. I mean, free on top of free. You just can't beat that value, right? Pick up any type of storyline you want, fiction, nonfiction, history, anything for free 99. That's right, nothing, zero, zilch. Go over to audibletrial.com/weraddads for your free 30-day trial and free book. You want value? There it is. One more thing I'm going to ask you here, and then we'll get into the episode, is to share this with a friend. Forward it to them, text it to them, email it to them, tell them about it. If you find any value in this program whatsoever, I would appreciate you telling another friend about it. I sincerely appreciate that you would take the time to personally introduce this program to other people. Value and wisdom are great, but if it's not shared, it's nearly useless. All right, let's dive in. Hello and welcome back, Rad Dads. Today's episode is definitely going to be a little bit different. You know that I like to keep it up, and I like to have a positive attitude as much as possible. But recently, I've been struggling with some things of my own, and I love to have the positivity and everything, but I feel I need to take this moment and just get this off my chest. I think it's really important to be as real as possible with yourself and your children, because you can be the patriarchal, manly man, and you can deny all the negativity in your life and turn a blind eye to it. But eventually, I think as we all know now, it will catch up to you at some point, and it will come back around, and ignoring it only makes it worse. Now, a little backstory here, and as much as I talk about staying up and being positive and controlling your emotions, I think we all struggle with doing just that. I had an occurrence this weekend where that was the case. And it never starts and ends with the simple situation at hand. It usually manifests days, weeks, months in advance. Things snowball and, I wasn't able to handle those situations appropriately, and now I find myself in a tight spot, so to speak. I'll be straight with you guys. It's financial. Nothing gets us men more up at arms than having a financially stressful situation. It challenges us on a level that we're absolutely uncomfortable with. It implies that we're no good as a provider or we're ineffective. I'd say to some degree that is accurate, but overall, I don't think that it defines you as a person. To have a weak moment or to fall through on an expectation of providing. Sometimes I'm going to have to do without, and I've done without a lot. I've actually stripped my life down to the absolute basics, and I'll bet you're the same. I've struggled through my time as a single parent. I want to take this time in this episode to let you know some of my former struggles and some of my current struggles. As a man, I think it's very difficult to deal with the world if it doesn't work out the way you had planned. I look at other people, and as much as I shouldn't compare myself to others, I still do. I think that's a pretty common issue. I wouldn't call it a problem. I'll say it's an issue. Now, I think we all compare ourselves to others, and sad as it is true, I know that that's a problem. I know it's something that I shouldn't do, but I do it anyway. I look at person X and see that they have, the white picket fence and the house and the family, the marriage, all those things that I really want. I mean, let's be honest, but that's not where I'm at. I've really had a tough time in accepting this. Sometimes I do pretty well and I focus on the positives as much as possible. But there are moments when it really gets to me. And I look around and I see that people have these happy lives. And one thing I think I really want to point out here is that just because of what you perceive doesn't necessarily mean that that is the actual truth in the situation. It's a lot like people's social media profiles. They're not going to advertise the negativity. They're not going to advertise the hard times, the financial troubles, the arguments, the anguish. Nobody recognizes that. But the reality is that everyone experiences that. I'd say that as single parents, we're easily influenced because I feel that I'm at a disadvantage. I worry about whether or not I'm going to find a relationship where I can feel normal. I worry about if I did find that relationship, would it end in the same way? Those things lead me to be very cynical about that situation. And if it were to ever occur again, I really want to make sure that I handle it appropriately. I don't know how to adjust myself for that, but I'm trying. That brings up an excellent point. I'm in the trenches right here with everybody else. I'm a single dad. And I'm a guy behind the microphone, but I'm a guy, just like the rest of you single dads out there, trying to do the best with what I know. Trying to gather all the information I can to help everyone else out there deal with their situation. And every situation is different. Every person is different, just like every child is different. We've all heard that, right? Now, I'm sorry if this episode isn't as upbeat and entertaining and doesn't really house a element of humor. However, I feel this is something right now with me that I need to really talk about. So what ended up happening this weekend is I lost my temper. And I'm in the trenches here right with you all. I wanted to really showcase that I'm a person just like you guys. And things don't always go my way, obviously. Right? Everything that I had planned in my life didn't work out. And how it occurred, as I talk about it now, seems ridiculous. Because as I described this one event to myself, I just can't fathom how I could have reacted this way. Now, all this financial pressure and strain on myself had built up to this point. And what occurred is my son pulled the rearview mirror off the windshield of my truck. That was after a long list of other things that, kids do. Kids are just curious and they're into everything, and I really love them for it. The problem here is that I'm mad at myself, and you may or may not hear the emotion in my voice, but I'm really upset with myself. I think the best foot forward here is to forgive my son, but more importantly is to forgive myself. I can reattach the mirror. That's not a problem. Yes, it presents much more work for me and a little bit of a financial burden, which,
is part of the problem. I know he's just curious, and I did scold him for pulling the mirror off, but honestly, he's too young to understand what had happened. And if you drive an old truck like me, you understand that sometimes those mirrors just fall off as well. So here I am days later recording this, and I feel just as bad now as I did then. Why is that? I think there's a simple answer here, and I want to say it comes down to shame and guilt. I'm not mad about the mirror. I knew that I'd be able to fix it. I'm not mad that my son is curious. I'm not upset at him for placing us in some sort of predicament. The reality is, the common denominator here is me. I need to take responsibility for these things. I need to challenge myself in handling these situations appropriately. I need to find a way out of this financial boondoggle that I find myself in. You know, it's not like I have gambling debt or go to the store and buy a carton of cigarettes and a case of beer. I'm alcohol and smoke free, by the way. I don't have any expensive vices, and I live pretty frugally. The reality of the situation is very simply, I have to find a way forward. And in order to do that, I need to deal with who and where I am now, accept it, forgive myself for it, and move forward. Now, nothing is going to keep me from feeling bad about the events of that afternoon. And although it was momentary, it still really affects me. Because that's everything I don't want to be anymore. I'm going to have to let it go. I'm going to process it. I think there's the lesson here, and it comes down to patience, self-awareness, forgiveness, and continuing to put your best foot forward. You know what I find therapeutic, actually, is I write these things down in a journal that I don't really intend on sharing with anyone. And when I say write, of course I mean type, because, well, I can type way faster than that. But I find that if I get them off my chest, it actually helps a lot. And I want to challenge you to do the same. You know, I hope you're winning your personal battles. We all know those are the toughest. I want to be there to help you as much as possible. So I'd really appreciate if you were to reach out and let me know what you're dealing with and how you're handling it. You know, if you feel so inclined, send me an email. There are many ways to process your emotions, and I think writing's a really good one. Granted, it does take time, but maybe we can give up on the sports center for 20 minutes to make that happen. Listen, Dad, I know you're doing the best you can. I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up. We've got your back here, okay?
I sincerely hope you got some value out of this. You know, I like to provide value in any way I possibly can, and I think part of that is community. Please join our tribe, our community on Facebook. The We Rad Dads group page is a place for us. Just for us. The single parents with these type of struggles. I'm there for you, and if you want to reach out to just me, email me at walter@weraddads.com. I sincerely appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me. And don't forget about audibletrial.com/weraddads. Your support is instrumental in keeping the podcast going.
And I'll say this to myself as I say it to you. Stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads.
Hello and welcome back, Rad Dads. Walter coming at you with a kind of a condensed microsode. I recorded half of this microsode months actually ago, and it's something I tried to fit into a certain time window. And as it is, I'm kind of an excitable guy, so I speak very quickly, right? So excuse me if it's a little extemporaneous. Yeah, and I kind of had to look that word up. Now, the other half I recorded genuinely, well, today. And I think it works really well because it identifies a contradiction. And I think it's really important to see this in our own lives. So I hope you enjoy what I'm about to talk about. And I will say that there's a big announcement at the end. Stay tuned for that. But I apologize if it's a little too quick for most of you because, well, sometimes when I get excited, I speak rather quickly. All right, so here we go. All right, Rad Dads, Walter coming at you with a really awesome microsode. All right, now here's my thing. I've kind of hatched this term, and maybe I recoined it. Maybe I repurposed it. I'm into repurposing. Anyway, it's relevant. You know, I hear celebrities and entrepreneurs talk about hustle and grind, and those are really awesome terms. You know, you get hustle and grind from different places. But one thing I don't really hear anybody talking about is this concept of seeing the target downfield, ways away, years, months, whatever the target date is, putting energy into it now and propelling it forward to that destination, hitting that target, whatever that target is. The term I'm talking about is HUCK. That's right, HUCK. HUCK is hustle and grind. mixed with purpose. Huck is putting energy into where you want to be, visualizing it, aiming for it, and executing on that vision. It's beginning with the end in mind and reverse engineering your actions, your thoughts, your steps. All right, how many people do that? Probably not many. For the longest time, neither did I. I took steps forward. I think I wanted to go this direction, so I took a step. Or, I took a couple steps in that direction and then figured out maybe that's not where I wanted to be. But in this journey of creating this podcast, I've actually learned to be a lot more strategic, which has been immensely helpful for me. And I've learned Huck. Now, you can't have Huck without hustle. Hustle it's getting things done now. It's being physically busy, one thing after the next, stepping things up. And hustle is an integral part of Huck. You can't have hustle, however, without grind. Grind is being able to see something difficult through. It's putting in the hours, pushing. It takes a lot of force to grind. But you can't have grind without confidence. Confidence allows you to know who you are, to know what you want. Confidence stems directly from past actions. That's how you get confidence. It doesn't come from anything in the future. I think we all can relate to that. How do you get confidence? The key of confidence is hope. And hope is what I'm trying to bring you through We Rad Dads. Now, this is something that I think that we all need to start practicing a lot more, is begin with the end in mind. Because, as I just exemplified, it'll give you clarity to where you're going. So I'm going to lay it out in chronological order this time. Hope leads to confidence. Confidence leads to grind. Grind leads to hustle. Hustle leads to Huck. All right, I hope that wasn't too painful to listen to. Now, again, it was recorded some time ago, and I was probably all jacked up on caffeine like a spider monk. So I do apologize if it was somewhat difficult to follow. But I would hope anyway that you understand the lineage, as it were, of these types of not so much emotions, but mindsets. Now, another thing I really wanted to introduce here is the inverse, I guess, of the final state, Huck. Huck, I believe, is a fantastic word. It's that I parallel it with the Hail Mary pass. And I think we're all familiar with that, even people like me who really don't watch sports at all. Yeah, don't think less of me, but it's not for me. I appreciate it, right? Major tangent here, by the way, but it's not something that drives me. All right. So the Hail Mary pass, obviously, is you have something and you wind up and you have a target downfield and you huck the ball, right? So that's the parallel. Now, the opposite of the Hail Mary pass, in this case, is punt. That's why this episode is called Huck or Punt. Because I think we've all reached that point in our lives where we have to really decide. It's not an easy decision. It's not I'm just going to follow the path this way. It's the wide open field with no path. Okay, do I want to put all of my energy into something and target something down the road and put my blinders on and go that direction? And I think we've all been there. I'll be straight with you. That's exactly what this podcast has been for me. It is something that I believe so wholeheartedly in its value and its content and the people it serves, that for the last several months, I have put so much energy on and have foreseen exactly where I would like to go. And I'm happy to tell you that I've achieved that goal to a lesser extent, in that it's established and I have an audience. And so I do appreciate that. But now comes the hard part. As much as I want to huck and keep moving forward, I think we all know at this point that I'm facing a certain struggle of my own, maybe several struggles. And I've already identified this in other microsodes, and that's financial. Now, I understand this podcast was never really intentioned to be a breadwinning endeavor, and I've realized just that in the process. So the other concept I will bring to you is punt. And that's exactly where I am today, is the choice between huck and punt. Now, it takes all the same lead up for punt as it does huck. You need hope. You need confidence. You need grind. You need hustle. But on the fourth down, if the odds are stacked so far and obviously against you, it doesn't make any sense to run a running play or to try and pass the ball. Strategically, it's much better to fall back, punt the ball, and take your chances in the future. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here today. I have a sad announcement in that this is our last regularly scheduled microsode. Now, I won't sit here and tell you that it's our final microsode, because that's not accurate. It is and will not be our final episode. That is to say, however, that it won't be scheduled regularly on Thursdays. Now, strategically, I plan on still releasing Microsodes, but they will be intermittent. And we've just released our first bonus episode, so I would really hope to continue that trend as well. Unfortunately, those two things cannot be regularly scheduled at this time. So, for now, I'm going to keep all of those elements: hope, confidence, grind, hustle. But right now, it's time to punt. Now, I've been talking recently about non-negotiables, and I think this has really helped me kind of make this decision. I haven't talked about it on the podcast, but non-negotiables are those things in life that, quite obviously, that you do not intend on sacrificing whatsoever. And I want to go over those few that I have with you right now. My number one non-negotiable is dedicated time with my son. Now, I've talked about this before, and I think actually Larry Hagner was the one who brought this up in one of my podcasts, is to be present. That is the number one non-negotiable for me. When I have my son during his waking hours, I am 100% involved with him. This takes work, let me tell you. But I know that my efforts will be rewarded in the long run. So I guess in a way, that's kind of a huck. My number two non-negotiable is continuing the We RAD Dads podcast. Very few things in life have I felt so passionate about. And I don't care if the listening audience dwindles to a single person. If I can reach out and help that one person, everything I've been struggling with is completely worth it. So do expect that I will continue my full-length interview episodes every Monday. That I do not intend to sacrifice whatsoever. I remember in my struggles in needing something or someone to help me along my way. Even if I didn't have a two-way interaction with that person, I remembered exactly what it was or what it would have been to have something like that in my life. And let's be honest, this podcast may not be perfect for you, but I would hope that it helps. Truth be told, producing this podcast and talking into this microphone to potentially nobody is very helpful for me also. My number three non-negotiable, I'll just say, because it's really who I am. I will continue to be genuine me and continue to be upbeat and optimistic, leading by example in my life, for my family, for everyone I come into contact with. And you don't have to resonate with this, but I understand at my core, this is exactly who I am. Why did I share this stuff with you? Well, these are genuine to me, all right? So the goal, the challenge, the gauntlet I set before you here today is discover your non-negotiables. Find 3 things in your life that are so important that you are absolutely unwilling to negotiate on them. Now, I can't expect that you'd want to share them, but if you do, I would love to hear them on the We RAD Dads group page on Facebook. You know, there's a certain accountability with voicing these things, and I find a lot of comfort in doing so. And of course, I wanted to thank you for listening, as always, taking time to hear my voice. Whether or not you agree, it means a lot to know that you spent some of your valuable time today listening to me. And I would, of course, appreciate your feedback. If this or any other of the We RAD Dads podcast has resonated with you, please leave me a review. Go over to iTunes and briefly fill out a review and a rating. It helps me reach other people that are in need, just like us. All right. In closing, I want to identify the overall mood of the Microsodes. They've gone from very upbeat to kind of more serious in nature. And quite frankly, I don't know that I'm a huge fan of that because I like to be upbeat. I like to bring entertainment. But sometimes we need to talk about the things in life, the hard things, maybe the good things, but there's some hard things as well. Anyway, I hope you're doing well and keep kicking butt out there, Dad. Stay up. Stay connected, and stay rad, dads. Hello and welcome back again, Rad Dads. Walter Eggers here with you once more for a Microsode. That's right, it's been a little while, so I actually have a decent reason for that. So this is going to be a little bit of rough, and I'm going to trip over my words like I just did right there. A rough, I guess. I'll say a lot. That'll happen. And will also be there. So I hope that this isn't completely unexpected. But I think that maybe you'll understand a little bit more why that is when we get into the subject matter. And I just had an interview with someone who is just a fantastic person. And, to quantify that, I think all of my guests are fantastic. But I truly believe that people come into and or out of your life when they're supposed to. I'm a firm believer in life lessons and just kind of going with the flow. And the flow isn't always the status quo. Yes, I have a terrible problem with rhyming. But what I mean is life is a river, right? All these cliches. Bruce Lee's, be like water. Water can adapt to whatever it's in. It can change form. It can change shape. What I mean is the river doesn't always flow. Sometimes it's fast, and sometimes I was going to say SLOW, but I saw it coming. What I mean is ebb and flow. I try to operate my life, and I think that, especially as a single parent, you need to really recognize ebb and flow. I think we all want to be in a state of flow, but we understand that it takes energy. It takes a lot of force and drive to be in a state of flow. And maybe right now, like I have been, you don't have that kind of energy or drive. And so we find ourselves in the ebb, swirling around, collecting driftwood or maybe things that we don't or shouldn't need. But the point is that you need to be able to push the reset button. I'll be honest with you, that's why I quit doing regular Microsodes, is because I understood how much energy it took to produce them. And while you may not think it may take a lot of energy from me to do these things, it's all everything else. It's everything that comes with it. There's actually a fair amount of editing, blah, 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 diatribe. Nobody cares. The point that I'm trying to get to and stumbling on is you need to be able to understand ebb and flow in your life and reasonably expend your energy on what matters. I say it all the time. Put first what matters most. What's most important to you, and stick to that. This person I was talking to, his episode will air Monday, and it is a stellar example of bringing yourself up by the bootstraps and knuckling down and putting first what matters most and networking and communicating. And let me tell you, I know more about this guest than the episode would say. And I've never met him in person. We connected based on the podcast. And I got to tell you, he's probably one of my best friends at this point. He's that close to me already. It's amazing when you put yourself out there and start trying to connect with other people out there, other rad dads, what can happen. We've tried, 4 times to do an interview. And what we end up doing is just kind of BSing. It's actually magic. I haven't had a good guy friend like that in a long time. So I encourage you to do the same. I'm going to go back into my original mode here and tell you what it is that I'm here for. And I've got 3 things here today that I've got not only takeaways, but directly apply to my life circumstance. And so let me break it down to you real quick. I'm not the best with lead in and build up. So I'm just going to come out with it here. I have been struggling with a lot of different things lately, be it finances, be it time, be it resources, everything. I mean, everything under the sun. And then on top of it all, my son's mom and her husband just had a baby last night. So we welcomed my son's sibling. And I got to tell you, you're probably listening to this going, oh no, I'm sorry. Or, oh man, that's got to suck. No, it's awesome. All right. That's all there is to it. I mean, my frame of reference is that my family just grew. And it was kind of naive of me to think that, they wouldn't go this route. First of all, I know my son's mom, and I knew that's what she wanted. So it was going to happen sooner or later. So I made sure and built those connections. And based on where we're at right now, we work together really well. And it's a joyous occasion for us. I was invited to bring my son down and meet the little one yesterday at the hospital. And I got to tell you, most people would think it was kind of weird. But going into that hospital room with the thought of it being weird as the last thing on my mind, really help the situation. I mean, it comes down to your paradigms. Whatever you expect to happen is probably going to happen. And then you put those projections on your own mental state. And that's how exactly you're going to treat it. So why not be optimistic? Why not say, you know what, this is going to be cool. I got a couple videos and it was fun. My son, he loves babies. So it was kind of cute. I got a video of it. He was playing this little piggy on her tiny little feet. So it was pretty adorable. Anyway, I maybe you can hear it, but I'm smiling behind the microphone right now. It's something that I talked about in my Mindset Mountain podcast episode, and that's with Jason J. Boom Leagard and our former guest, Eddie Aguilar. I went on their program and I talked about that. Actually, I'll link this up in the show notes. You can listen to it. It talks about how I wasn't sure how I was going to react when the baby was born. And I guess at that point, I didn't. I really didn't know how I was going to react until, I don't know, when it happened. And it was one of those things like, hey, you can't stop the river, right? This is flow of life. And you can't get stuck up in the ebb or behind a dam forever. You've got to be able to move and change. And so point number 1 from this episode I just recorded is embrace change. You know, they will forever be siblings. This little girl will always be my son's younger sister. He has a duty to protect, to provide, and everything, like the whole Ryan Mickler, you know, just be the man to her. She's going to grow up in an interesting situation. She's got myself in the picture. She's got another family in the picture from her older sister. Like, we're a true blended family. And what I'd like to do here is be the example. I said this in my episode 0. I want to be the example to other people. It's not easy to do all the time. People are looking to me and I put a lot of pressure on myself, but the reality is being this example, being this person is exactly who I am. I think the biggest takeaway that I've made in this past year, oh yeah, it's been a year since we separated, is getting back to exactly who I am. Not hiding anymore behind who I think society or my friends or my community thinks I should be. You know, I've gone through a lot of career change, let's just say, life change, lifestyle change, mindset shifts, and I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not doing well financially. I'm not doing well in lifestyle. But you know what? I'm happy. That's all there is to it. I'm happy. I've accepted my situation, and I'm going to be a little bit better tomorrow than I was yesterday. That's it. That's what it takes. You know, my guest on Monday embodies this really well. So, I mean, I'm throwing out the hooks here, but I swear to you, it is a must listen like every other episode. I'm going to dive into another concept here. It's something that he said, and I think it's a genius quote. It says, in order to grow, you have to let go of the past. That's it right there. I mean, like I said, it's been about a year since I discovered that, while I was living at the house, and you know, it is what it is. There was another person involved. They were shortly married and obviously now are our complete family. I'm really happy for them. I did a microsode on this. It was the unexpected thank you microsode. And if you haven't listened to that one, go back and check it out. It's interesting. You know, it was interesting to me to even say those things and to listen to it and realize, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. You know, I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they're happy. And, you know, our situation is different and weird, and a lot of people just don't get it. They kind of shy away like, oh, this is awkward. This is weird. And that's not it. In fact, I went into daycare yesterday to pick up my son, and they were excited. Oh, hey, do we have a baby yet? And I was like, no, not yet, but we're going to, or actually, I guess yesterday, yeah, there was a baby at that point. I said, oh yeah, we're going to go see her. So, you know, the owner comes up to me and she says, you know, you're doing really well with this. Like, this has got to be kind of awkward for you. And I said, you know, it is what you make it. It's not weird unless you make it weird. And that's not my thing anymore. Like, I don't need to rebel against progress. Progress is going to happen no matter what. So just accept it, do the best you can with it, and move forward. And, the funny thing is, I didn't say all that to her, but then she comes back and she says, you know what? You guys are a model of co-parenting. And to me, at that point, it was just like, man, there's really no higher compliment that I could be paid right now. So I thanked her for that and said, this is who I am. This is who we are. And this is exactly what I want to be to our family. I'm still involved with my son's older sister, who I have referred to as my proxy stepdaughter. She's older and she helps out a lot. I mean, that's all there is to it. No, it didn't work with my son's mom and myself, but this actually works really well for us. I wish him well. I know it challenges me at times because, well, frankly, they make more money. They're much more secure than I am. And that used to really challenge me, but I found that money's not everything. Not to me. If I can live the lifestyle I want and be the dad I want to be, that's riches enough at this point. But understand, yet again, I'm going to continue to strive forward. I'm not going to just sit in the eddy. I'm going to paddle out and try and get into that flow. Okay, point number 3, and then I'll wrap it up here. Only compare yourself to who you used to be and aspire to who you want to become. Now, if I didn't know any better, I would say that my guest on Monday is a dang philosopher, because that's so profound. I don't know where he got this stuff from, but it was completely off the cuff. And like me telling my story now, that was just part of the conversational flow. I feel really excited to know this person and to have them in my life as part of my tribe. And we actually talk about this a lot. The power of tribe, and exactly what I'm trying to do with the We RAD Dads Facebook group. Now, it's very difficult to reach out and say, you know what, I'm struggling, especially for a guy, especially if you've never done it any before at all. Excuse me as I stumble. This is a one take, by the way, 0 edits. Go out there and open yourself up to possibility. Embrace that change. Number 1, embrace the change. Number 2, in order to grow, you have to let go of the past. And number 3, only compare yourself to who you were yesterday and aspire to who you want to become. Some great takeaways here in my personal life situation, and it may boggle the mind still, and it probably will here in the future, but hey, my son's got a sister, and he loves her, and we will always be family. We'll be a different family, but we'll always be family. I think we need to take stock of what we have and be appreciative of it. Have gratitude, because it could be way worse. And if you think it is way worse, there's only one person to blame. Yourself. Now, I don't need to drag you down or point fingers at anyone in particular, but the reality is we only have presence and control over one person and their actions and their thoughts and their attitudes, and it's ourselves. This comes to mind after being exposed to a gentleman named Jocko Willink. Jocko runs a podcast, and he's a former Navy SEAL. He wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, and in it he details a lot about basically owning anything that happens, anything that goes wrong, and that promoting the kind of being the catalyst to that kind of change in your life. When you do that and set the example, people tend to follow suit. There's a very similar kind of conversation that I had with my guest on Monday's episode, this coming Monday's episode, wherein we take accountability, and the way he went from not being able to see his daughter to having his daughter full time is truly amazing. And it's reminiscent of my Eric Davis interview, also a former Navy SEAL, wherein he says, be loving, be valuable to your ex. Because if you're so valuable to your ex, there's no way she's going to end up pushing you out of her life. Now, it's going to take a while to get to that point, but it can be done. And it's funny how these two completely unrelated people share the same philosophy. Now, I know you're struggling out there, but I also know that you're trying your best. Keep at it, Dad. You're doing a good job. I believe in you. come over and join us on the We Rad Dads Facebook group. There it is. All right. So I hope you're having a good week, and I hope this sets you up into the weekend quite well. Keep fighting the good fight. Stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads. Take care.